Hi there, this is Dylan from Online TEFL Training, and in this video I'm going to talk about how to survive your TEFL course. Now, this is mainly directed at people who are taking the 4-week intensive course, because if you do the longer course you won't struggle with some of these problems, and if you do the short course, again, they probably won't actually concern you here. So, first of all, make sure you do as much preparation as you can before the course starts. That's vital. If you don't really know much about grammar, buy a grammar book. If you want to learn a bit about the English language, buy a general book talking about the English language. But make sure you prep as much as you can before, because when the course starts, you'll have to hit the ground running. So related to that, when you get in contact with your centre and they accept you on a course, they will give you some pre-course tasks. Now take them seriously. Spend a lot of time and do the best job you can, because honestly, if you can do the work before the course starts, then you'll have more time to really focus on what you're learning and what you're teaching during the course. In my experience, people who didn't really do the pre-course tasks or did them very quickly and rushed through them, they found the start of the course really difficult and had to play catch up right from the beginning. So again, I mentioned it earlier, but buy a good grammar book. This is something that will be so useful throughout the course when you need to actually prepare your lessons, and also when you're actually taking some of the classes with the tutors. I've put a couple of recommendations in the PDF notes, which I'm going to put up soon. Now, the next one seems pretty obvious, but honestly, get plenty of sleep and don't forget to eat. Lots of people become really obsessed with the TEFL course, and they live, sleep, dream, and everything's related to TEFL. So make sure you get sleep and bring a banana to your lessons every day, or make sure you've got some food in your bag, so if you have to keep on planning or preparing or revising or reviewing during the course, you've got something to eat to keep those blood sugar levels nice and high, but not too high. This is a piece of advice, I think, which some of my trainees actually suggested I should give subsequent trainees. Take a break from social media. If you're someone who loves using Facebook or Twitter, just if you can, try to reduce that during the course, because it just eats into your time and you've got to be really focused during the course, and honestly, that just may waste your time. Again, make sure you disconnect. If you're someone who's got a very packed and active social life, you might need to tell your friends and people in your family that you're going to be doing a very intensive course, and I'm not saying make sure you can't be contacted for a month, but I wouldn't try to socialize too much. So hopefully people will understand that your priorities during the course are actually based around fulfilling the requirements on the course and not socializing during that time. Now, in general, during the course, you've got to think about what it's like to be a learner of a foreign language. So really take advantage of that, and any situation you get, whether it's being a member of the training team and participating in the classes, or actually giving your classes, or actually being a participant in the foreign language classes, which you'll probably actually undertake, you should make sure that you really gain the perspective of a learner, okay? Because that will really enrich your ability to give effective classes later on. Now, it is a very busy, intensive course, so create a work schedule for yourself. It's really important, so you don't spend 2 days doing something when you've got a deadline coming up. So you've got to be really disciplined and decide how you're going to spend your time. Now, it's very easy on a course like this to think you're not picking things up quick enough, you're not learning things quick enough, or you're not improving your lessons, your teaching quick enough. So just remember that it's an introductory course, and by the end of the course, hopefully, you'll be a relatively competent EFL teacher. But you won't be fantastic. It's only a 4-week course, so just remember that you won't learn everything, and then once you actually start teaching after the course, that's where a lot of the real learning begins. Now, during the course, it's very easy to fall into the trap of researching everything online. And there's some fantastic stuff online, but also you can get distracted very easily if you only use online resources. Now, any good training center will point you in the direction of certain textbooks or reference books or grammar books, for example, or course books, which will really help you focus. So I would suggest try to find what you need in those books first. If you can't find what you need, then go online and do some research. But hopefully the center will have enough reference books for you to get everything you need from their personal library. Now, this is something that I was told a while back. I think I read it in one book as well, that if you want things to go into your working memory, you need to repeat to remember. So when you learn something new, grammar or a teaching theory or something to do with methodology or teaching techniques, just repeat it as often as you can when you've just learnt it, and hopefully that will stay in your working memory. And then I would say at the end of every week, maybe just review your notes, and hopefully that information will then go into your long-term memory. So repeat to remember, and remember to repeat. Now, when it comes to actually teaching your observed classes, the classes you actually give to real learners, which your tutors will give you feedback on, when you start preparing those classes, really focus on your learning aims. Now, the learning aims are not what you want to learn when you're giving the class, but what you want the students to actually learn by the end of your class. So it could be something like, by the end of the class, the learners will be able to talk about different types of cooking. Or by the end of the class, the learners will be better at using the simple past to talk about past actions. So if you focus on those, it will hopefully make it easier for you to prepare your lesson, and you won't get distracted by things which maybe are kind of superfluous to your main focus, which is that your students will achieve the learning aims you put on your lesson plan. Now again, if you have to teach something like grammar, it's very easy, it's very tempting to get a grammar book and just read everything you can about that particular grammar structure or grammar point. Now this might not be the right thing to do, because you might waste time learning things which you won't actually be able to teach in the class. So I would say, really focus again on exactly what you want to achieve in that 20-minute lesson or that 45-minute lesson or that 1.5 hour lesson, however long it is, and make sure you know that like the back of your hand. And other things you might not have to touch. There's nothing wrong with telling students, look, we can look at that in a future lesson. Now, when you're preparing classes, you get so much help and ideas and advice from your peers, the other trainees on the training course. So use them as a sounding board for your ideas. If you have time, just say, look, have you got 5 minutes? I'd like to run my lesson plan by you. And then if they do that for you, then I'm sure they will ask you to reciprocate later on. So I think it's a good idea to work as a team and just help each other out when you can. And again, if your tutors aren't too busy, see if you can grab their ear and just say, look, this is what I'm thinking of doing, what do you think? And hopefully they'll be able to sit down for a couple of minutes and respond appropriately and give you some feedback on your ideas for your lessons. So again, as I said, your peers are really, really vital, not only for giving you advice, but when you actually do the course, you'll probably have to observe your peers and your tutors teaching. So make sure you don't use that as an excuse to just have 40 winks in the back of the class. Make sure you use that as an opportunity to learn what works for them, what doesn't work, and you can actually use that to actually prepare your next lesson. I mean, often you learn an enormous amount from watching your peers because they're experimenting and you think, wow, that worked really, really well. I'd like to try something similar in my class. Or, alternatively, that was a complete failure. I'm definitely not going to do that. I've got to change my plan. Now, one reason why trainees don't do so well in the observed teaching classes is that they talk too much. Maybe you get nervous or you feel the need to actually impart your knowledge to the learners. Now, often, a little of what you know goes a long way. So make sure you minimize your teacher talking time in which case that will maximize your students' time in the classroom because they need the practice. You don't need the talking practice. They really do. Now, during a course, you may have points of conflict with your tutors. You may think you've done a good job and they may give you feedback which doesn't necessarily agree with your own opinion. So listen carefully to them, take what they say into consideration. You may have to do things during the course, or you may have to abide by certain regulations which you don't agree with. I would say on a 4-week course, it's not really the time to actually argue with your tutors. Do what needs to be done, jump through those hoops, and at the end of the course you can give your feedback, hopefully to an external moderator, about what you felt worked during the TEFL course and what you felt could be changed. Now also, don't take feedback to heart. It's very easy to take feedback or criticism too personally. The tutors want you to pass the course. They want you to become the best teacher you can be. So don't take their feedback to heart. Use it as an opportunity to learn and develop. And related to that, keep things in perspective. During the 4-week course, you'll be obsessed with TEFL and it will be the most important thing in the world. But remember, when that 4-week course finishes and hopefully you've got a certificate, then you can go off and become the teacher hopefully you always really wanted to be. And you can experiment with techniques in your own classes. So I hope that helped a little bit. I gave you a few ideas there about how to survive during the course and hopefully how to keep fairly sane and healthy during the course. So this is Dylan from Online TEFL Training. Again, feel free to visit my website at onlinetefltraining.com, and I hope to see you soon for the next video. Bye for now.